Hello everyone and welcome to my new video on stock market where I'm going to discuss about another interesting topic. So the topic as you can see from the 50 slides here, it's turnaround companies which can be multi-bagger in future. So these are companies whose stock price is not doing very well from many years. Either it has been flat for many years or it has decreased a lot, but the brands that these companies have are very good, and also these companies are very well managed. So we will look at this, so how these companies are changing over time. And also if you're interested in this type of contents, like the content which I am making, please subscribe to my channel. That will encourage me a lot in making more such content in future. So if you like the content, do like the video and also subscribe. So first thing is like how to identify turnaround companies. So these turnaround companies, I mean, these are very risky companies, but we will see that we can avoid some risk here also. We will see that. And also, if this company actually turn around, they will give you huge returns. So normally, let's say if you want to, let's say get 300% return. So normally, if you invest in a normal company, very big company or normal company, their earnings will mostly increase by 15 to 20%, and they will give you like 300% returns in, let's say maybe 8 to 10 years mostly, if they if they have like profits increasing at 20%. But these turnaround companies, these are very undervalued companies, because since the stock market has told them, I'm not told them, but they have identified that these are very, not good companies, and so they are not trying to buy these stocks. Most of the investors are moving away from these stocks, but some things are changing at this company, and many people are not looking at this now. But let's say if some report start covering this after 5 or 6 months, or a year, many others will also join the race. So it's better to identify them first. So first point is that bet on companies which have good management. That's the first point. Do not bet on any company, random company. Also, companies should have good products with good market share. It should not be like you do not understand anything about the company. You should also understand what the company is actually doing. And also, of course, it's a turnaround company. That means stock price has been flat for many years or it has decreased a lot. But now a changeover is happening at the company. Maybe you have a new CEO of the company, or maybe it's a new management itself. So the change, I will say changes are happening at the company level. For this to know, you should always watch and read the management commentary. So sometimes the management team will come on the CEO or managing director, or they will mostly come on television, and also they will give, I will say, like in the newspapers like Economic Times, you can find their articles. So do read them, and also check the financial numbers whether they are improving or not. Okay, they are saying something, I understand, but also check the financial numbers, what they are saying, and whether those are reflected in the financial numbers or not. So Britannia is a classical example of this turnaround. So Britannia in 2013, Varun Berry joined as the CEO of Britannia. At that time, operating margin for Britannia was just 5 to 6%. That's very low in FMCG sector. Every company if you see in FMCG sector, they have around 20% margin. Now Britannia under Varun Berry, they started, decreasing the expense, which they were doing on manufacturing and everything, on raw materials and manufacturing. And today, the operating margin is close to 16%. And Britannia has almost become an 8x bagger stock after Varun Berry joined as a CEO. And I will also take examples, like even if the companies do not turn around, let's say if if you're guessing that they will turn around, not exactly guessing, but you're seeing the numbers. But even if they do not turn around, you're not going to lose much in this company, because you will have some dividends, and these are very big companies actually. Okay, let's now move on to the companies. So the first company is TV18 Broadcast. So understand what this company actually does. So this has a lot of media channels like CNBC TV 18, CNN News 18, News 18 channels, Colors channel, MTV. It has Viacom 18, which produces a lot of movies. So as far as I remember, Bhag Milka Bhag, Padmavati, Gangs of Wasseypur, all are produced by I think Viacom 18. And they also have they have Voot. So Voot is into OTT. So it's like internet platform for this, I mean, movies and serials. History TV 18, and these are some other channels. So they have a good product. It's not that they have very bad products. Also, if you see the last 2 quarter results, so the margins has been increasing. So margins was in September quarter, if I say in 2019, the margin was just 9%. In December, if you say it's 20%, and in March 2020 again it's 17%. Even the profits are increasing, the margins are increasing, the revenue is quite stable and increasing. So if you see everything, the numbers are becoming better now. And also understand like how this can, like, numbers can change over the years. So if you see the operating margin for similar companies in media sector like G Entertainment and Sun TV Network, G Entertainment has 30% operating margin. Still, like, TV18 is at just 20%. Sun TV has 64% operating margin. So it has a long room to grow its margin. Now, of course, they're also going into emerging markets like Voot is their OTT product, and also Viacom 18 is trying to. So I have read this news. They are trying to partner with Netflix, so they will make movies, and their movies will be basically shown on Netflix. And other than this, emerging markets, they of course have Colors, CNBC News, and News 18. These are the leaders in their, I mean, in their categories. And of course, one good thing about TV18 is that it's an indirect subsidiary of Reliance Industries. So Reliance Industries is the owner of this TV18 company. And also restructuring is happening now. So these 4 companies will be merged into one: TV18, Network 18, Hathway Cable, and Day Networks. So the proposal has been set, but it will take some time. And if this happens, let's say, if this restructuring happens, then the new company formed will be Network 18, and the revenue for this company will be around 8,000 crores, right? It will become one of the largest listed players in media sector. Like G Entertainment, with same revenue actually, has a market cap of 16,000 crores. So you can understand, I mean, how much undervalued this is. And TV18 market cap is now 5,000 crores. But if you see the share swap ratio, so if this happens, the restructuring happens, you will get 92 shares of Network 18, that is the merged company, for every 100 shares of TV18. So almost you are getting 1:1 ratio, but a little less. But if you see the valuation of G Entertainment, and if the new merged entity earns 8,000 crores in revenue, and if they have around 15 to 16,000 of valuation, then I mean, you are going to make good money in this. Okay, this was TV18, and also I'm invested into almost most of them. So it's not, so I maybe some preferential towards some of them, but yeah, I'm invested in like 4 out of these 5 companies that I'm telling you. So next one is of course the IDFC First Bank. So IDFC First Bank, I mean, was under different management before. Now in 2018, December 2018, a merger happened between IDFC First Bank and Capital First. So Capital First was first. Its CEO was V Vaidyanathan, and of course the CEO for this merged entity is also V Vaidyanathan. So let's talk a bit of its history about V Vaidyanathan. So I mean, I will tell you why I think that this stock should do good. So V Vaidyanathan has a lot of experience in retail banking. So previously, he started his career with like he was head of retail banking in like of ICICI Bank Limited, and he grew the business there like to over 1,400 bank branches in 800 cities, 25 million customers, a vast CASA ratio, and a very huge retail deposit base. And if you see he built a retail loan book of over 1.35 trillion, right, through auto loans, commercial loans, credit cards, and personal loans. So that's huge, right? As the head of the retail banking, how he did this, these numbers are huge, right? So he has a very good experience in this. Okay, after moving from ICICI Bank, what he did was, and he's a very good entrepreneur. So what he did in 2012, he acquired a stake in existing NBFC. So the equity value was 8.1 billion, and he of course took the help of, if you see, Warburg Pincus in this, and then he co-founded Capital First Limited. So this was him after he moved from ICICI Bank. But you see, this was an NBFC. Now he transformed this NBFC into a retail finance institution, right? So initially 90% of the loan book, if you see, was mostly like wholesale loan book. He transformed this into a retail institution. With 85% of this business was migrated to retail. Again, the retail story. Now the company grew from like just 9 locations to 220 locations just in 5 years. Even the returns for Capital First was great. I mean, when Vivianathan was there. Now it has been merged in IDFC First Bank, but the returns was great in this. And also, if you see the market cap for Capital First, he has grown from 7.9 billion to 60.96 billion. So almost kind of, if you see, six-bagger stock, right? In just, if you see in just 6 years, you got a six-bagger stock. And also he reduced the NPA, non-performing asset, from 5% to 1.72%. That's quite good again. So he has a good experience in retail banking, and he's trying to basically make a retail bank at IDFC First Bank. You would have seen the interest rate for IDFC First Bank is quite high at 7%. No other, and most banks have like 4 to 5%. So he's trying to basically take the deposits from like retail customers. So that's the question is that why he cannot do the same with IDFC First Bank? If he can do this with ICICI Bank is a very big bank. He can do that with again Capital First. Why he cannot do this with IDFC First Bank also? Also, okay, leave this. See the numbers. The numbers are improving day by day. Every quarter by quarter, the numbers are improving a lot. And it's very undervalued in the sense that price to book value ratio, if you see, it's just 0.68. For most banks which are growing, you will see this like 3, 2, 3, 4 IMN for most banks which are growing so fast. So CASA ratio, if you see, it has improved more than 23% over last 6 quarters. So when the merger happened, it was just 8%. Today it's 31%. That's quite huge, right? And CASA ratio is basically, I will say, current and savings account deposits that they are getting. So a lot of customers are depositing into. So they are making, a lot of customers are opening accounts with IDFC First Bank, and they are depositing this money. Other than this, before IDFC First Bank, for them, the most part of their, I will say, loan book was consist of, if you see, wholesale funded assets. If you see, 90% was wholesale funded assets, and that just 10% was retail funded assets. So retail is basically us, the deposits that they are getting from us. But if you see in March 20 quarter, it's almost 50-50%. So just 46% is wholesale and 54% is retail fund assets. That's quite great what he has done. And also net interest margin, if you see, it was just 1.56% before merger. It became 2.89% after merger. Today it's 4.24%. That's quite great. Even for HDFC Bank, the net interest margin is around 4.3%. We are very close to them now. Okay, now next stock is ITC. So ITC is of course a very big company. It's a part of Nifty 50 index. But if you see the last 8-year returns, it has been not flat. It has been flat actually. And during last 5-year returns, if you see, it's 0.5%. And last 10 years, just 7% returns. Even FD would have given maybe greater returns in this. But if you see the sales and profit growth for ITC, it's greater than the biggest FMCG company in India, that is Hindustan Unilever Limited. So the actual reason for this is that the valuation of ITC is very low. So price to earning ratio is just 15.8. It's lowest for ITC in last 10 years. I mean, average P in last year, 5 years is actually 30. So that has fallen a lot. Their price was once 400, now it's close to 200. For HUL, if you for Hindustan Unilever Limited, that is the biggest FMCG company in India, the price to earning ratio is 70, right? I mean, the growth for HUL is less than ITC, but still it demands more valuation than ITC. It's because ITC still has a lot of dependence on cigarettes, and it is trying to become a, FMCG company. So yeah, because of that, and it has like 12,000 crores profit each year. That's quite huge, right? 12,000 profits each year. And the management had decided that they will return 80 to 85% of this profit as dividends in the future from coming years mostly. So at current price, it's around 6 to 7% dividend yield at current price. So basically you are making more than FD with the dividends that ITC will give. And also in the management commentary, the management has told that FMCG results still in investment phase, but they should start showing results in next 2 to 3 years. And also they have entered into hygiene and health products during the COVID-19. A lot of products they have entered into. So they are expanding a lot. So if you see annual consumer spends of like 18,000 crores. So if you see this chart, they have brands like Asirvad, Sunfist, Bingo, Classmate, Yippee Noodles, Vivel, Mangaldeep Agarbatti, Candyman. So Asirvad has like around 4,500 crores revenue. Sunfist close to 4,000 crores of revenue. Bingo 2,500 crores of revenue. Classmate 1,400 crores of revenue. So in every of these categories, either they are first or they are second in most of the categories. In Asirvad, they are of course first. In biscuits, I will say they are either, I think, third mostly. In Bingo, again, they are first or second. In Classmate, of course, they are first. Noodles, again, they are second. So in most cases, they are very dominant. You see the FMCG sales, how it has been increasing from 2006. Like the CAGR growth is close to 10%. Even the big companies like HUL and other FMCG companies, they are not growing at 10% actually. That's a long growth from 6 to 18 at 10%. That's quite huge. So their FMCG sales are increasing a lot. The issue is that their return on capital employed is very low. That's why they make very low profits from these FMCG products actually. So if you see it, but that's also quite good news that this also has been increasing a lot on capital employed. Once it was negative, like minus 33%. Now it's gone positive and it's increasing. Now it's close to around 5%. In future, it should increase as the investments keep on decreasing, and you have more stable products with more market share. This would also increase a lot. And the operating margin in FMCG is also very less now. That should also increase in next 2 to 3 years as per management. Next one is Tata Chemicals. So Tata Chemicals is a Tata Group company, and recently demerger of consumer business happened. So Tata Sampann and Tata Salt now. So Tata Sampann basically went to Tata Consumer Products, and the Tata Salt also. Basically the sales of Tata Salt will be controlled by again Tata Consumer Products. And this demerger will improve its return on capital employed because they were investing a lot of capital into this business, consumer business, but the profit from them was not very high. Plus, it's a chemical company. Why a chemical company should go into consumer business, right? It doesn't make sense. It's not worth a diversification. It's better to focus on chemicals, which are booming actually. So let's see at their segment. So they are into basic chemicals, which is like a cash generator for them. So they are into soda ash, bicarbonates and salt business. So from these basic chemicals, their revenue is close to 8,300 crores, and earning before interest and tax is 1,300 crores. And it's a well diversified, like into India, Europe, North America, and Africa. That's quite great. They are the third largest manufacturer of soda ash globally, like huge market share actually in soda ash. This product, soda ash, is used in glass, detergents, and paper. So it has like a lot of applications, and also there is a big barrier to entry into this because making such factories is not easy, and it's like big barrier to entry. It requires a lot of investment, and also this is still in expansion phase. They are expanding this portfolio. This is the basic chemicals portfolio. And again, in this, again, they have salt also. They are the largest manufacturer of salt in India. It's a quite stable business. So salt is of course a very stable business. The revenue from salt segment is around 1,600 crores. But this may change after demerger because now Tata Consumer has taken the sales side of this. So I do not know how the split will happen. And last one is the bicarbonate business. So this is normally used in pharma, animal feed, food, flue gas treatment. These are the applications for this. The revenue is 500 crores. This is again a stable business, and this is again in expansion phase. Other than this, they have 51% stake in Rallis. That's another Tata Group company, and it's an agrochemical company. So the government is also focusing more on agriculture. So it should help this stock also. They have 51% stake in this. And they have also invested a lot of money in Rallis now. It's close to 900 crores. And the main good thing about this stock is that they're entering two new business. One is the specialty chemicals business. It produces silica, and it's very higher margin business. So this silica factory they are trying to open, and the margin here is quite high. Very stable business. They also are into energy business, and not into. They are trying to get into with lithium battery manufacturing. They have purchased some land in Gujarat, and they will open this factory in next 2 to 3 years. See again, this is backed by Tata Group, so they do not have like, I will say, they have a lot of money to invest, right? They do not have lack of money or something. So basic chemical business is of course a cash flow machine for them, and they can use this cash flow like generator to invest in other new emerging segments. And they have done a lot of capex. Some capex is done, and some are still in progress. Debt to equity ratio is quite okay. 0.43 is not that much high. It's okay. Price to earning is very low, around 8. It's okay. It's low because the company has not been growing much. So why should an investor assign more valuation to this company? Book value is again 506 rupees, and the current price is just 312. I mean, the current price is just less than the book value itself. I mean, you see the undervaluation here. And if this stock starts growing, I mean, if the revenues and profit starts increasing, of course, price to earning multiple will increase because the growth will come. But let's see this how the new emerging business happens. Again, you see the dividend yield itself is 3.53%. You have a lot of safety here also. You get around 3.5% dividend yield, right? It's quite good. Your savings account, I mean, gives around 3% today. And also it got in this quarter around 6,000 crores from Tata Consumer Product as a goodwill. So they got some good cash from Tata Consumer. The last company is Tata Power, another Tata Group, Tata company, Tata bagged company. It's the largest power generation company in India. And I will also discuss about the Mumbai story. So I was there in Mumbai when I got my first job, and the power that I got, right, the electricity I got was from Tata Power. And I was there in Mumbai for 1.5 years. And in these 1.5 years, it was just one day I remember when there was a power cut in these 1.5 years. That was also just for 5 to 10 minutes. They're very good actually at this. Generating power and providing them to the customers. They are very customer oriented. But okay, leave this because now the world is moving towards other segments of electricity. Renewable electricity. Right? It's not, coal-based electricity will go after some time. Not some time, but it will take time. But maybe in next 10 years, you will see a lot of electricity generated from sun and wind and other resources. Of course, they are into solar rooftop, electric vehicles charging, and solar microgrids. So they're expanding into this. And also Tata Power, one bad thing about them is that they have a lot of debt. Right? So they are trying to decrease this by selling non-core products that they have. So according to Tata Power CMD, that is my current managing director, they expect to bring down our debt by 50% this year. So if they are, let's see, I will keep on watching the numbers. Let's see what happens. But if they are able to do this by selling non-core products, that will be quite good for Tata Power. And also, if you see, power demand is going higher and higher in future. So if you see more people buying ACs now, so and more, if you see more electrical appliances, right, in households. So this will again consume a lot of electricity. Plus, if electric vehicles are there, they will again consume a lot of electricity. So demand is going to be very high in the future. So if you see again, book value here is 70 for this, and current price is just 41. Again, quite undervalued. And last time this price 41 was seen was in 2005. So you can see, how much this has corrected actually. It's not such a bad stock. It's a very big company, Tata Power. It's okay. It's the debt is very high. That's why there are issues. But the profits and everything is quite good here. You get good dividends also. And also their operating margins are now quite stable at 20%. It was fluctuating a bit in the previous years, but last 2 years it's close to 20%, quite good. It's a recession-proof company. Why? Because even recession happens, you are going to use power, right? You are going to use electricity. It's not that if you're not earning, you will say that, okay, I do not need electricity. You will pay for electricity, right? Even if a recession happens. Dividend yield is quite good here, 3%, same as your savings account yield. They have sales of 30,000 crores, I mean revenue, and the market cap is just 10,000 crores. Again, you see the undervaluation here. Okay, one bad point is debt to equity ratio, 2.46. It's quite high. But as they told that they're trying to reduce this and by 50% almost. So it should reduce to 1 point something. So let's see how this unfolds. And also government is also trying to, I mean, do some better work for power sector. So they are trying to privatize a lot of power distribution companies which are in union territories. So that's also good positive for these private companies actually, which are into power. So these are the 5 stocks which I think should do good. Should do good in future. Maybe next 5 years. It's not that okay, just after 1 in 2 months, 3 they will show the results. But if you wait for 3 to 5 years, I think this company should do very well actually. And whatever the management is talking, also read the reports what management is talking, see the numbers. This keeps on happening, the improvement keeps on happening. I think that this stock should do very well. So yeah, thank you, and that's all for this video. And if you have liked the content, do subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you.